get some more people coming in. Yeah, I only see a few of you. Eric and I literally just had his one-on-one call, and he just enrolled. So I'll try to keep some stuff relevant and prevalent, to what you're looking for as well, Eric. Normally, how I run these weekly DaaS sales sessions, and some of you guys may know, last Tuesday I was out. I actually missed a good chunk of the week and ended up hospitalized in an ER for 7 hours the following day of my workshop last week on Wednesday. And luckily, I was able to get treated and on the right plan and made a full recovery and started, this week, Monday, off taking my calls and back to all my regular tasks and duties. So thank you for your patience if I had to cancel your call or, bearing with me while I had to cancel last week's workshop. But last week, I took 2 calls the whole week, one Monday before I counted myself out and one Friday that I had booked from weeks prior. And I didn't want to push it off. It was kind of a non-negotiable. So as I told people, I took more calls in the first hour or two Monday than I did the whole week last week. But again, thank you for your patience. And I know at least 10 of you commented on my post or reached out or DM me with the get well wishes. And I really appreciate the kind words, wishes, prayers, all that stuff. What I want to cover today, and normally on this workshop, I start off with, our DaaS sales resources that I've created for all you guys. Now, Eric, you and I just had the call and you haven't even got a chance for me to send that over. I think Kelly and Monica, you may have both seen this a couple times, but I'm just going to go over it super quick and drop in the chat in case I'm missing out or anybody doesn't have this. And then I want to cover some stuff that I want to get into, and I want to leave a lot of time for Q&A, even though there's only a few people on the session today. If you came for a specific objective or with a specific question, I want to make sure I address that. But our seller resources doc, for any of you guys that don't know or haven't seen it, this is just everything you need to build out your data as a service sales process. And I always say it this way, whether you're starting your agency from scratch or whether you're bolting data as a service onto your existing, full stack or boutique agency. So everything from building out your sales process, ideas for creative, the triage call script or your framework, your sales or your demo call script to the framework, the pitch deck that we provide you guys that I recommend using on some of your sales presentations. The tutorial number 7 on my screen is the tutorial about the SuperPixel, pricing and assessing when clients are a good fit for that, and any problems or any questions you've ever had about that. About 20 or so of my sales calls, recordings, etc. So this document, just for anybody that's either hasn't received it in the past or just joined as I was running through it, I'm going to go drop it in the chat right now. So this next link you see in the chat is the link to the data as a service or data resellers document. So so I wanted to drop that in there first, again, for anybody that didn't have it. And I saw 1 or 2 people I admitted while I was in the middle of talking there. So if you weren't sure what I was just going over, that's the data as a service or the reseller docs for closing data deals and all the resources you need to do so. Thank you, Monica, for the message there. Sorry to hear and glad you're feeling back and feeling better. Thank you very much. I'm very glad I'm back and feeling better too. I know not everybody's wired like me, but I actually don't like to miss work and don't want to miss work. And I was wishing last week that I could have been on some calls when it just wouldn't have been smart. And I had to, take care of myself first. So I appreciate that. What I brought for today is something new that we have put into our website, something that you guys have asked for, like mock-up copies. And I know you guys as resellers specifically, I don't know about the people that are just using the data for their own brands or ads, maybe, but more for the resellers specifically. We talk a lot about frequently asked questions and what do I tell clients or prospects when they ask me about this or that or a million things. So we took a little while to build this out. I should say redo it. I mean, we had an FAQ page, but it wasn't nearly as in-depth and updated. That's the right word that I'm looking for, as it was. So what we took is all the feedback from our sales team's calls recordings internally, the most common objections, frequently asked questions, etc. And then we took 8 or 10 points that we keep hearing on the workshops that you guys are getting asked, and we built out a new FAQ list. So first off, as I'm going over this, let me just copy the link and go throw it here in the chat for everybody so you can bring it up on your screen or have it for later or whatever. I would recommend, if you see a lot of these are relevant, if you're getting asked these, if you have your own little landing page or website built out to close data deals, you may want to make something similar. And a lot of these you can probably just copy and paste. Now, of course, there's going to be some subtle differences because you guys are selling directly to brands where we more wholesale the data in larger packages to agencies who resell. So the verbiage and the questions may be a little different, But I think generally speaking, I just wanted to run through these because I think they're really, really important. And I know some of you guys were asking for an updated page like this, but like number one, right? How fresh is the data and how often does it refresh? And then you get a much in-depth answer about that, right? So is the data compliant with these regulations? That's one we get asked very, very often. So everything you need to know about the compliance and the terminology you should be using in terms of what is legally compliant for you to say when you're asked this stuff. We made sure to not only sit and I want to say just very diligently answer these. We also ran these all by our legal team before they went onto our website. So all this terminology is 100% compliant. How do you get the data? Is it proprietary or third party? You might get asked that a lot. Now, as you guys know, or our resellers should know, that we have a first party data database, which means anybody in our super graph, whether you get them from the audience builder, through the identity resolutions in the pixel, through the enrichment feature, doesn't really matter how you're acquiring clients or names or prospects. If they're in our database, that means at one point they ticked the box that said, yes, I agree to share my information with you and your partners. And that's the only reason they ended up in our database and our super graph. So they did give consent to have their information entered into our database, right? Do you provide opt-in and proof of compliance with documentation? And there's a very good reason for this. You guys should, I've heard a few of my resellers, I don't know if it's anybody on this call specifically, but I've heard a few of the resellers tell me that they are kind of winging this answer, and they've even gone as far as certain people to lie. I never want you guys to do that, and that's not what I ever recommend. Can I stop people from lying or making up their own answers? No, never. But I can recommend how I would do it and what I would recommend for you guys to do, right? But as we say, cut and dry in the first sentence, we do not provide proof of opt-in. And then we tell why. Like, even if somebody has opted into a website specifically, not our whole, general super graph demographic, but even into a specific website, and then we legally and compliantly acquire a list of emails, that does not translate to the prospect then actually using that lead. So we can see where the lead came from in terms of first orientation, where the lead gave their consent, but that consent does not carry over to meaning that the next company can reach out to them without having to follow any guidelines, right? So they end up within the TCPA compliance or spam, etc. So that answer, you guys might want to, utilize something similar, or that one you don't have to change at all, in my opinion. But again, I think this is really, really powerful. So how does your data, and some of you guys get asked this, hey, you have this awesome database. It sounds too good to be true, but how do you differ from some of the other data companies out there? Apollo, ZoomInfo, Seamless AI, right? We only started with a few. I actually list our 10 biggest competitors on, I think it's on this document. I'll just show you guys real quick, and then I'll go back to what I was covering. But this is probably our top. You have requested, something requested a recording. Sure. I'm not sure what that was. I think somebody else's note taker. But anyway, there's about 10 of our top competitors that I list and I share with a lot of people. If you're not familiar with some of these other data companies, I personally, and it's probably a little different from me to you guys as an actual co-owner of the data provider, more so than a reseller agency or an agency that I'm offering this with. But I actually go through my competitors' websites. Sometimes I'll book in with them. Sometimes I'll get on sales calls to see what type of BS they're saying, how their calls are scripted, what they're using. What I find when I kind of funnel hack my competitors more than anything, I usually don't find many good things to take away that we're not doing, but I do find like the cringy and the in some cases unethical, marketing statements, marketing approaches, and sales scripts that they're using, and it really helps me kind of separate and say, okay, that's kind of cringy or that's BS. I see why they're saying that, but it's not entirely accurate. I never want to be doing things or using it, in the same way they do. But yeah, I always like to kind of funnel hack my competition and see what they're saying, because I like to also stand out in the market. And when I get in a conversation with somebody that has in the past paid for or used Apollo or ZoomInfo, I can have a discussion, and really quickly that guy can see immediately how we differ from that database and how ours is going to be more effective for their business model. Like, that's the biggest thing I am trying to portray, or to just get across to the person that's ever asking me how we differ. how we differ, in my opinion. I need to now say how we stand out and how ours will perform better. Why is Apollo and Zoom info data stale or insufficient? Some of you guys might not know this stuff, so it's really good to go through this. Again, I'm not going to read every one of these. I'm not here to do a full reading and comprehension lesson. That's why, I shared the page with you guys. You guys can go through on your own time. But I did want to certainly go over and highlight a couple of these. How accurate are your emails and phone numbers, and do you verify them? Right, understanding how to address that, and actually what's going on in the back end of the software. I got to say, I, as a co-owner, don't always know every little thing we do until I go through and meet with my team, or sometimes they drop a description to me and say, this is exactly how we do it. I imagine there's a lot of you guys that don't know the exact process we go through to verify or to improve historical accuracy of the data, et cetera. So the more you guys know, also, the easier it's going to be to sell, and the easier it's going to be to answer and or overcome any of these things when they come up. How does the SuperPixel work for identity resolution? I think that one most people understand, but it's good to have kind of the legal statement, especially if you guys are, and I know a few of you, I know one or two of you on this call have sent me over, I've seen your landing pages, but I know a few of you have, kind of built out your own website or landing pages to go sell data. Kelly, you have a question? We can stop right here and you can go ahead, and then I'll get to questions again at the end, but go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, I want to ask you something. Since you're co-owner, and I sent this to Adam, I want to do something with Audience Lab. And what I want to do is that, code vibing is the thing right now.
Yeah.
And I actually have a way to where I can basically go into the database and then it'll index everything. And then instead of like people checking off the boxes and searching around, they just basically type in what they want and it'll deliver a CSV file to her or load it into, their ad accounts or what have you. And I
Pretty
kind of
handy.
wanted to basically, well, put it this way, it'll be a game changer and it'll increase your sales. But I also wanted to basically try to integrate it with AppLovin.
Okay.
You know what AppLovin is? They basically
Vaguely. I don't know it
okay.
in depth, but I
Well,
know what it is. Yes.
just so you know, it's a $190 billion company, and they basically specialize in kind of like CCTV and stuff like that. And I want to try to find a way to integrate that into AppLovin
Okay.
because everything is going in. And like I said, you guys are way ahead of the curve. Okay, I want to give you props because you got to take credit for it. The fact is that intent data is going to basically taking over more and more of the advertising space because it cuts out a lot of waste.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. And we do have some stuff that's cutting edge and we like to be on, but there's still certain things that we don't yet implement or apply to our user base that like you said, there's new options, new tools, new things dropping all the time. So we're always
right?
looking for whatever we can add in to make the process easier and more seamless. And what you just described sounds pretty much ideal, Kelly.
Well, I'll send you a link. I mean, like I said, I don't want to step on your toes, but I sent it to
Yeah.
yeah, to Adam, and I sent it to Jaden. I'm like, you gotta check this out. Um, and like I said, I'll send it to you right now in private message.
Send it to me in a DM in the school thread there. In our you're in the school
Right
community,
here.
right?
Yeah. I'll just send it to you in the school community.
Because that way I'll have it saved and I can go back to it later.
Right. Because this program, I literally wrote it, and it's like I'm not anywhere near close to being a programmer, but I actually programmed it. You can basically just index the site, and then at that point, you can basically cross sell it as a new feature, to where instead of like looking around trying to find solar data, you just type in, tell the software what you want, and it pulls it right then and there. So you
Yeah,
get somebody
yeah,
with
for
a
sure.
credit
Send me over
score.
the info. Send me over the info. Let me go through it, and then I'll get back to you when I have a little better understanding and I go through that. But no, I appreciate it. Yeah, we're always looking for things we can do to make our user interface better, easier, and more efficient.
Yeah, because it's kind of funny because Jaden was like, "Well, what would that add?" And I mean, Jaden, literally, you guys are blessed to have that kid. He's not a kid,
Thank
but
you. I
to
would
me,
agree.
he's a kid.
Yeah,
He's so smart that in terms of like programming and data and stuff like that, he didn't really get it. Like common people that are really good on the phone and can talk, and meet with people may not have the same skill set, will not have the same skill sets as he does. When it comes
yep,
to the sophistication and what he has. So
yeah. No, it makes a lot of
it was
sense.
kind of like, why do people need that? You just click, like, no, I don't think he doesn't get it, but I'll send it over to you in a link, and then basically just play with it and see what you think. Because I'm going to actually
Yeah, I
offer it
will.
to small business owners for QuickBooks, and then start integrating that with their CRMs.
Okay, right
See what
on.
happens. But yeah,
Yeah,
I'll send that right away. Okay.
cool. Great. Thank you.
All right. Nice
Okay,
talking
cool.
with you.
Yeah, likewise, my man. Thank you, appreciate it. So yeah, again, guys, we're going through the FAQs. Again, some other ones, right? Do you have API access and documentation? That's another common one you'll get. Can I create custom modes and competitor audience targeting? I think that one I hear maybe even more often than I would like. That question, and I'm actually going to click on that one in 1 minute. Hold on 1 minute. My toolbar's in the way. Somebody's trying to come in the Zoom room and blocking me right now. There we go. Now I got the admit button. Sorry about that, guys. Cool. When you're sharing screen, have multiple pop-ups. So where was I? I'm just was saying, oh yeah, the custom mode and competitor targeting. I actually want to go over this one. We kept it pretty short, which is good. I think some people try to over elaborate or over speak on this, but yes, you can, so long as the audience has enough about it online to build a custom model. If your competitor is very niche and there's only 5 different articles online, it's going to be very hard to train a concise model that's going to be accurate based on that. So really, if you can just ensure that the competitor has at least a couple pages of SERPs of content that we know of and people are searching for it, we can build similar and custom audiences through the custom model 100%. I think the other thing that's left off there that I want to elaborate for you guys is, like, some people think with this SuperPixel, hey, can I capture my website's traffic? That one makes no sense to me. And the answer to that is always, sure, do you have access to their domain? And we all know that nobody has access to their competitor's domain and login to get in there. So to put the pixel on anybody's website, you need to be an admin and have domain access to that particular website and or landing page. I don't know anybody that gives the competitor admin access to their domains, right? So that's a very good way to just do that. And if you ever get that question, I'm not saying it happens a lot, but I've heard it a number of times. It's like, hey, can I put my pixel on my client's website? I'm in my competitor's website and resolve their traffic? Sure, as soon as they give you admin access into their website. Oh, that's never going to happen. Well, then you can't do it. I mean, so again, you don't have to be maybe as blunt as that, but whatever. I think it's important to realize that. Can the pixel be white labeled and used across multiple domains? We went, again, like I said, we went very in depth with the data on this particular FAQ page on our website based off of multiple sales call recordings and AI, breaking down everything that happens. And then again, the stuff that you guys are telling us that you guys are getting asked over and over again. Can the data be used for multi-channel outreach? I think we all know the answer to that one. But again, it's good to have the verbiage down there, and you guys might want to get a little familiar. Is email sending integrated, or do I need an external tool? It says what we have the ability to do, but it also gives people some other recommendations or common practice tools that are already being used. How to best activate the data for client acquisition or reselling. Now, again, I think we all know that this is entirely dependent, which is why you guys have heard me say this. When I'm kind of pre-qualifying and assessing a client to work with, I always want to ask them, what are you currently doing to acquire a client? What are the current methods or avenues you're using? And then I explain how the data would work in their existing method or model. So I'm not always going to recommend what I think is going to be the highest effective or, the best for them necessarily, if that's not within their ecosystem and something they're doing. A lot of times people are going to get the best results in ads, but this guy might not have an ad budget. Am I going to recommend he go put data into ads when he's already told me he doesn't have a budget? No, that makes no sense. So I'll say, hey, I think once you start to get some results and some profits from the email and SMS outreach we're doing, I would put aside a little bit of that, whatever 20% of my profits, and start to build an ad budget. So in month 2, 3, or 4, we can be running ads in addition to your email. But right now, I get that you don't have an ad budget. This is how I would use the data. And I'm going to, again, prescribe how they should use it based off of their business model, what they're currently doing and getting results with, and what they have the bandwidth and or capabilities for. So I would think it's important to understand how to navigate that discussion, because I really think as resellers, one of the biggest components that we don't necessarily handle properly, and I've heard some of your guys' sales call recordings, very few, A couple years ago, a lot more of my resellers were sending me more calls to reviews. I don't get near as many anymore, and that's fine. I can't make you guys share them with me, but I can give you great feedback. But I've heard a lot of people getting really in the weeds on these calls about where's the data, how's it sourced, is it legal, compliant, all this stuff, when really the main thing we need to assess is how they can take this data. Yeah, sure. I guess if we have to talk about or overcome all that stuff, fine. I find myself, and if you guys know on that document that I share with you guys, there's about 20 or so of my sales call recordings. You could go through and count the times on one hand or less that I mentioned legality and where it's come from or where it's sourced. I don't spend much time on that. And if they bring it up, I overcome it and I give an answer really quickly. And I'm like, does that make sense? Yes, it does. And then I carry on. But what we need to be assessing and prescribing is how we're going to now take this data and how we're going to reactivate it. And that should be a big component of your discussion. And I've heard a lot of people on sales calls just kind of gloss right over that. Oh, here's the data. Here's how it's compliant. Here's how it's legal. Here, do you want to buy? And it's like you're kind of skipping over the whole implementation and execution. And that's what people are going to pay for, right? I've always said people don't necessarily pay for information. Many times they pay for implementation, which is why there's so many products with done for you and done with you options. If everybody could just watch a course or a tutorial, sign up for software or education or learning and do it all themselves, there would be a lot more do-it-yourself stuff. And not to say there aren't, right? We all know there's lots of courses. But what I found, especially when we're offering high ticket services, people are paying for implementation more than information. They're paying for results and outcomes more than projections and promises, right? So the more we can keep our sales conversation about the implementation, the execution, the results, and the outcomes, the more we're going to put them in a buying pocket. And I just think that's kind of, when I was going through this, it's not hard for me to correlate FAQs into sales. And that's what I wanted to kind of bring up is when I hit on one of these as I was scrolling through here, going back to the sales calls I've had and the ones I've audited, what comes up a lot, what's being done and what's missing from sales calls. And that's kind of how I wanted to fill in the gap with FAQs along mixed in with sales training. So hopefully that makes sense. Is there a free trial or discounted pilot? Now, currently, as you'll see here, we do not offer a free trial. Now, some of you guys have asked me, if you can offer performance or free to start. And I say, yeah, if you do it right. That's not what I would recommend and not how I position it. And even when I do something that's like, hey, you don't pay until you start to see results, I will normally at least get some type of small setup fee or commitment that I tell the prospect it at least covers my hard cost and lets me know you're serious, but I'm not actually making any profit off this, just what it's costing me to pull the list and take my time, yada, yada, yada. You just pay me my hard cost. I'm not going to charge you anything until we embed this into your campaigns and start seeing results. And then let's talk about how to work together and what the cost would be in month 2 or whatever, right? So that's how I recommend doing the performance or the proof of concept type of campaigns. And I've gone over this quite a bit, but to kind of show you that we drink our own Kool-Aid here, when I tell you guys I don't recommend giving out free trials, you'll see right on our website that we do not offer free trials, right? So I'm not just saying that to say that. I just know from the business owners I speak with, from the amount of agencies I've worked with, I know the effectiveness, I know the capabilities of this software and this data, and I know the results that the brands and the companies actually see when they implement it. It's stuff that people are willing to and happy to pay for if it gets results. So if I have a product and a service that I know people are willing and happy to pay for, what sense does it make it to go offer it for free? I don't know if somebody has a different answer, but I don't have any sensible answer that says I know I have a high demand product that not everybody else has and that's going to deliver results. And these people are bought into results. Now I should give it for free. Like that whole logic just doesn't jive with me or make sense. And again, how do I price and monetize my data for clients? So again, we give a quick little overview there, but as you guys know, in the school community, in the classroom section, in the agency win kit specifically, I go much more in depth about how I price audiences versus pixel. When do I cross-sell them? What discount do I do if they buy a couple features? So much more in-depth answers if you want like full tutorials, but that's the quick answer here on the FAQ. Concerns about paying with guaranteed ROI or client buy-in. So I don't think you guys have ever seen guaranteed ROI statements within our copy. Not that I'm aware of. I'm not going to say as an outlier we haven't done it once. We might have shown examples of what people have done, but as everybody knows, we have to put a disclaimer on a screen when we show monetization examples that this is not what's expected. This is one of our better performing clients or agencies or whatever. But I don't ever make guarantees other than I can guarantee you that your campaigns are going to be more successful, more competitive, and your costs are going to begin to drop. So let me ask you a question, Bob. If your costs begin to drop in terms of cost per lead and acquisition, is your profitability going to go up as a byproduct of that? Well, yes, it is. Okay, then I guess you answered your own question. There's a pretty good chance you're going to see an ROI. Would you agree? Yes, I would. So again, I can pretty much guarantee that if you're using the right audiences, it is going to lower costs. But I never talk about the ROI or the overall profitability because that varies on so much stuff. They could have crap creative. I don't care what audience you put in front of crap creative. If it's not converting, I can't give you an audience that's going to go buy crappy creative, crappy messaging, right? So I don't know if your budget is $10 a day or $10,000 a day. That's going to make a big difference in the type of ROI. So there's so many moving parts with this question. I don't like to give any basic guarantees other they're going to be more competitive, more successful, and have a higher targeted audience. If you have those three things, Bob, do you feel like your ads are going to be more profitable? Yes, I do. Great. Let's move forward then, right? I get them to say it rather than me saying it. How easy is onboarding and integration with CRMs? I think that one's pretty cut and dry, with especially with the new Studio Builder. If you guys haven't seen that feature, Adam just dropped a module on it. What was it, last week? I want to say. I don't know. I was down last week. I could be off on my days. Don't quote me. But if you guys aren't familiar with the Studio Builder, haven't heard about it, go look in school. There's a post really recent, within the past 7 to 10 days tops, I believe. How does the data syncing work, automated or manual? Now, most of you guys should know we can automate this process. And every single day around the same time each day, we get a whole new batch of URLs that have processed, right? So again, you can go more and more into that. Now you guys, like, questions like this is where yours is going to change probably drastically from ours. Your onboarding and support, I don't imagine, is anything like ours because you're onboarding for a different objective than we are, generally speaking. I'm guessing most of you guys don't have a team of about 25 members, and I don't expect you to. So the onboarding and support, again, how we answer and how you answer might be night and day. And for a smaller agency or an agency only offering a couple services or only working with 20 or less clients, I don't think this has to be added into your FAQs. If we weren't doing 75 to 100 new clients per month, this probably wouldn't be on my page or a common question. But as you grow and scale, obviously you get different questions and different types of people coming in. So we do have a ticketing system. Obviously, can I white label the platform? Again, you guys might answer this a little different than ours, but you guys with white label access can give your clients access to their own portal. When I tell, just let me tell you how I would answer this from your standpoint, because it's different than the answer on my screen. If I am you guys and I have the white label option to resell, no, that doesn't mean my clients can also log into my dashboard and go resell to their clients. They can refer people over to me, and I'm happy to work with them and give them a kickback. There's all kinds of ways we can work that out. But as a white label agency yourself, re-white labeling it is where you start to get into trouble. And I personally always stay away from white labeling a white label product personally. Again, you guys can try or play with whatever you want. I don't recommend giving your clients white label access. I can see a lot of problems. I don't see a lot of upside from it. And that's what really any good business decision is made off. You got to weigh the pros and cons, the risk and reward, and is the reward worth the risk? In this case, I think it's a giant no. Are there limits to client logins or usage? Now, again, limits are more based around, and as it says, let me just read it. The limits are based on what you set. The limits are based on how many credits you will allow a client and the max size that you will allow a client per list. And then there are things like, are we going to allow them with beta features? Are we going to allow them enrichment? So you guys can set up your own dashboards for your clients' login and usage. And of course, the other answer to that from a larger scale, I would say, is there are limits and usage also based around the program you're in, right? Some programs only have 4 lists per month, some have 30 lists per month. So you got to know what program you have and how many lists you have. I don't think we have any of the white label, packages with only 4 lists, but I'm just saying all of our packages go from anywhere from 4 lists to, well, we have unlimited plans where I have one client that I know pulls over 100 lists a month off of our platform. So again, niche and vertical coverage. There's very, very few limitations to what niche or vertical we can cover. You guys can go through that and pull that out. Again, I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time on every single one of these. Concerns about platform maturity and company size. Again, that's one, if I'm you guys, I don't even worry about that, to be honest with you. And that is the last one, as you see, other, and it's the last one on the screen. That one had probably, we get asked the least often, really had the least importance or priority, which is why it's at the bottom of the screen. We just kind of heard it enough where we wanted to address it. And concerns about ad fatigue and campaign effectiveness. This is the last one I actually highlighted on my notes here to read out to you guys, because I think this one's kind of important too. But there is also kind of side factors that can, affect this, right? As we kind of all know by ad campaigns and ad fatigue, there's a lot of factors, but normally it's going by how long the ad's been running and how many people have we already gotten in front of it. Normally, again, those are the two main things I'm looking for when I'm looking into ad fatigue specifically. How long is this campaign running? How are the metrics gone up or down in the trends? And how many people has it already gotten in front of? And once we kind of know that an audience has hit the maximum amount of our marketplace, let's just say I know 3 million people could possibly be interested, and my ad starts to get past more than 3 million people, I might want to go change up the creative and the copy there. But again, that's going a little off of what it says here. But let's just read what it says. This is entirely depends on the platform and the spend. Again, if you're using Facebook ads, even with great intent art, you're still going to have to follow the algorithm by producing a lot of creative, probably 5 to 10 more times creative than what would you be doing now. So is that worth it? First and foremost, you have to think about that from either you or the buyer's perspective in your guys' cases, right? However, when using things like our own DSP, which we just got up and running recently, that is one-to-one targeting. So frequency is actually rewarded instead of just being something that you have to continually keep frequency low. Again, that might be a little difficult to understand if you've never really done a lot of ads or used a DSP, but all you have to do is kind of break down the verbiage and go Google it really quickly, and you can get more familiar. We recommend that you hit up a client and see if see our ad at least 20 times through the DSP. We have a way to make campaigns last longer by using ads insights of the ads inside of the programmatic. However, depending on how much you want to spend, you will still have to provide a decent amount of creative just to keep that fresh and to make sure that you're not annoying users with your targeting and your, I want to say, repetitive and or redundant content. So anyway, I know some of you guys hopped on late and hopped in as I was going through this. Just in case you missed it, let me go grab the link to that page one more time in case anybody didn't grab it the first time. I am going to copy it now. I'm going to go put this in the little chat down here within the Zoom chat box. And again, this is the link specifically to our FAQ page and everything I was going over today. If you guys hopped in late, it is right there in the chat. And did anybody have any specific questions that they hopped onto this session for? Anything sales related? Any things about how to price, how to position, how to package this? Any common objections that you're getting that you need help overcoming, and you want to pick my brain? So if anyone has any questions, please go type a 1 in the chat right now. I will call on you and you could just unmute. But yeah, that's kind of basically what I wanted to cover. I wanted to go over all of our new FAQ page. Again, much more in-depth and updated with the answers and some of the new features or parameters within our platform that we can now do and how we want to say that. Michael, go ahead. Feel free to unmute and ask away, please.
Yeah, on appending the data, say a customer has an old data list, right? How much do we charge for that typically? And new data, how do we charge for that, or recommended charges, say if it's like an agency?
Sure. So let's start with your first question. When you said reappending the data, are you talking about like, what do you charge to, you're talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, more of like us enriching their data and giving them back more from what they already have? Is that what you're asking?
Right, bringing the old data up to date and renewing their list basically.
So that would be through the enrichment feature. And I always charge, I look at the enrichment feature as kind of my low-hanging fruit. It's my lowest tier option and product and what I charge. And it's normally used, again, predominantly, not solely, but predominantly used for what I would call my lower tier or lower sophistication or less established business owners. I'm normally going to utilize enrichment for companies. Now, again, In addition to these things, also large companies that are paying for these other things I'm about to talk about, enrichment might be an added bonus and something else I would do for them. But I'm generally using it for companies that aren't spending a lot on ads, that aren't driving a lot of traffic, that aren't sending a bunch of emails. So, meaning when I speak with a business owner, if they're not going to really benefit from my audiences, my list, or my SuperPixel, I'll go to the enrichment. And how I kind of pitch it before I get into your question, just for anyone else on the call, I tell people this. It's like, hey, Michael, so you're not running a lot of ads. You're not driving a lot of traffic to your website or landing page. I totally get it. But you do have a list and some data that you've accrued being in business the last 5 years or whatever. Yeah, Ray, I do. I have a email list of 10,000. All right, well, we could do this for you to start. And then maybe the list and the audiences and the pixels might make some sense down the road. But let's try to get you some quick wins and some revenue off the data you already have. So what I can do for you is I can take your email list of 10,000. I can throw it into the enrichment feature within my data platform. And then on the back end, Michael, it's going to spit out that email that you gave us. It's going to spit out the first and last name of that consumer, their SMS number, their social media handles, if applicable, and they've added them. And then we can reach out to these people on other avenues. What I mean by that is it's great that you have an email list of 10,000. I don't know how active you are with content and blasting it, but even decent email campaigns nowadays get about 25% open rates on average. So if we can get that same data from your email list and hit them with social media and or SMS messages, that should 3 to 4x the amount of eyeballs getting on your message or your offer. So, Michael, if I could get 3 to 4x the amount of eyeballs on your message, do you think you'd close more deals? And that's kind of how I navigate that conversation. And just so you guys know why I say that number is some of you guys know in my company, the Sales Lab, I run and manage and oversee lots of sales teams. We've been going through lots of numbers on open rates. And again, on average, across this is over millions and millions of emails and SMSs and DMs now throughout all the offers I've worked in. But we see about a 25% inbox hit and open rate. So let's count those as one thing. It's got to hit the proper inbox so they see it and get an open. On average, we see about 25% rates. Now, on social media, if you DM somebody on LinkedIn or Facebook, you see about 68% open rates. And SMS, the most recent studies show people open about 83.3% of those. So that's where I'm talking about why you can 3 or 4x the amount of eyeballs that actually see your message or your offer just by using the enrichment feature. And that's why, in my opinion, it's a good tool for that less established business that doesn't spend a lot, doesn't get a lot of traffic, but they have saved some data and accrued a list over the years. So to your initial question, Michael, I generally charge that at $500 per enrichment I do for them per list up to 10,000. But again, I really think I go bottom of the barrel pricing. Can you charge more and is there more value in it? I'd almost be willing to bet yes, but I generally charge about $500 per enrichment up to say 10,000 emails or SMS numbers or whatever they're giving you as the data source. So does that answer your first question? Any more on that before I go into the second half, Michael?
No, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. And now your second thing was like, how do I price? And correct me if I'm wrong, I might have got distracted because I got kind of in depth with that first answer. But you're asking how you price some of the other features. Was that kind of correct?
Yes.
Cool. So again, I have tutorials on that within the agency win kit that go much more in depth, but let me hit it here with a quick little overview. And again, this is me looking at your perspective, no matter what plan you're on. Where this math came from, just so you guys know, is our lowest tier plan of DaaS 101 gets people 4 lists and 2 SuperPixels for around $9.97 a month. Again, I don't have it in front of me. I could be off by a couple bucks, but I know the parameters are right. So even at the smallest package, again, some of you guys on this call have much more lists and pixels than I just talked about. But even on my lowest tier package, to make sure I'm profitable, I would never charge less than $750 per list or audience. That's my bottom of the barrel starting price. And normally, if somebody's getting at that price, they're actually buying multiple lists per month, and that's kind of a discounted price. But again, bottom of the barrel, I would never charge less than $750 for a list. Personally, I wouldn't sell a SuperPixel if I'm doing on straight retainer for less than $1,500 a month. And you'll see if you ever go through my pixel pricing module on how I assess and how I price that, I almost always go more performance model when I sell the pixel. If we use the pixel forecast calculator that I've given to you guys and is within the tutorial that I'm teaching on this, you'll see when we can get about 4 pieces of data into the pixel forecast calculator, it spits us out a very close, rough guesstimate of how much revenue this company is leaving on the table every year by not using the SuperPixel. So first, I'm going to assess and make sure it's a home run. Then if I know it's a home run, let's just say I know I'm going to generate 80K in business. I would rather take, 20% of what I generate than my $1,500 a month, because 20% of 80K is going to be much, much higher than a $1,500 a month retainer, so on and so forth. So within the module on the Pixel specifically, I go through, hey, if I'm just selling on basic retainer, and this is me, when I do that, it's when I know they're going to make some profit, probably 2 or 3x, but it's not a home run. They're not making 100K plus per year off the Pixel. When I run the numbers and it shows that they're going to make 3,500 in profit, I'll happily sell them the Pixel for 1,500. They pocket $2,000 every month. Everybody wins. But if I know it's going to be a home run and some big, some big numbers, I do it on more of a percentage and performance basis, and they usually end up much more lucrative deals with much less friction, because you don't even need them to pay up front. You're like, hey man, I'm just going to throw this onto your site. I'm going to let it start running. And once we resolve the identities, you pay me per identity or per sale that I bring you back, or however we set it up. But so with the Pixel, kind of 3 basic pricing styles that I go with. Straight retainer, I don't charge less than $1,500. And again, that's when I don't see a huge return. Yes, they're going to make profit, but I don't see a home run. In some cases, I will do retainer plus performance. So instead of charging you $1,500 a month, Michael, I'll only charge you $500 a month to put the Pixel on your fee. And then I want 10% of all the revenue that I send you through there. Or I could go straight, performance. And I already kind of hit on that one. And I would go higher than just 10%. And again, I'm making up these numbers off the top of my head. I'm not saying they're not right, or they could be wrong, but it's really going to be contingent on that company, their average order value, the ROI that I see, how many, all those things. But normally it's somewhere within those percentages. So the
Question.
Pixel, yeah, go ahead.
How do you verify their profitability if you're sharing in that profitability?
You worded it a little weird, but I know what you're saying. Yeah. So like, how do you separate what you sent them and the revenue through this Pixel as opposed to other business revenue? Is that kind of what you're saying, Michael?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so there's 2 main ways that I would do that. Number one, anytime I set up a Pixel on the website, and then when we're going to resolve the identities, I set up an automation and a webhook to zap it into their CRM. Now, that could be one of 2 things. Number one, if you are by chance a white label GHL agency and you build your own sub accounts, I would build my own sub account for that client where I track everything that I send them. Other than that, let's say we're logging in the client's CRM. Let's say the client's using HubSpot or whatever. I have them give me admin access when I set up the Pixel. I do a one-on-one call with them, and we set up a separate pipeline called Michael's Pixel Pipeline. And every deal or every lead that comes in through the SuperPixel goes into this separate pipeline, which can be tracked separate from everything they're doing outside of that. So to answer your question, I either create my own sub account CRM for them where I have control over it, or they give me admin access into there, and we create a separate pipeline just for what I'm going to be sending them.
Outstanding.
And once that's set up, Michael, obviously the rest of the CRM tracks the deal process. So we can see, hey, this $3,000 closed deal came back from this pipeline in my Pixel, right? So you can track it back to the origin of the lead very easy once it's in the CRM and in its own pipeline.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, those are the 2 ways that I found best. Are there other ways to do it? Sure. And let me tell you about another Pixel pricing strategy and outreach thing that I didn't come up with. I never thought of. Sometimes you guys, my resellers, have your own great ideas, have your own great approaches that work. And this has worked for quite a few of our clients, especially a couple that lead with the Pixel. I would say a majority of our DaaS agency clients probably sell audiences and lists more, and that is the most utilized and most effective feature within the platform. But there are outliers. For instance, I think the e-com industry is a great example where the Pixel is usually a quicker and faster and larger return than in-market audiences. Now, when they complement one another and work really well, if I'm working with an e-com company that's spending a lot on ads and running a lot of traffic, I want to offer both. But let's say I just start with the Pixel. What one of my clients does, and now multiple, but when one of my clients brought this idea to me and showed me how it got him at least 5 deals, he would lead out with messaging to an e-com company that he already knows gets a decent amount of traffic. And he would say to him, hey, Michael, what if I could show you a new revenue stream in your business that didn't even know you exist? If I could generate an extra 10K per month that you didn't even know about, would you kick me 40% of that? And that's a great in, right? Because like, shit, this guy knows about a revenue stream in my business that I don't even know about. He's going to come up with 10K that I didn't even know existed. Yeah, I'll give him back 4K out of money I never knew I had. You know what I mean? And you can go with a higher percentage and basically say, I'm going to open up this whole nother revenue stream. I just want a bit of a revenue share and make it worth my while. Are you open to that? And most often than not, they're going to say, sure, I'm open to that. Where's this revenue stream in my business you don't know about?
And I would assume different niches are more profitable than others, so you could target the more profitable niches.
100%. 100%. And let's say I'm sticking within the example I just gave in the e-com space. I'm personally only looking for e-com stores that are in that mid to high ticket, which for physical products, everybody has a different definition of this. For me, it's about $80 or more average order value with physical products. Now, if we're talking services and roofs and plumbing, those prices are night and day, right? But for e-com stores, I'm looking for business owners ideally with an average order value of $80 and above. And then you're going to see even bigger and bigger returns. Some of the companies and some, actually, I met with somebody else today, I think that was also doing this, if I'm not mistaken. My days might be running into each other, but I'm thinking of a client from about a year ago that had this high-end air purifier and air filtration system. I forget exactly what it was, but I know the average order value was like $1,200 to $1,500 for every one of these units. Dude, that guy put the Pixel on the website, came back to me and said he made $86K in 1 month just from the Pixel resolutions. In addition, he was already doing about $140K in revenue. He did about 226 that next month, and we set up the separate pipeline so we could track it. 86K was generated to the Pixel. So, for instance, if I know I can set a Pixel on a website and get somebody 86K in a month, and I'm not saying that's the common standard, but in this case, that's what happened. I'd feel like a fool if I just sold him that for $1,500 and that's all I'm collecting each month. I get 1,500, he gets 85 G's, right? You know what I mean? So that's why I go more performance deal, especially on high volume and higher ticket products. So yeah, great point, Michael.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. So anybody else have any other questions? Otherwise, we'll cut it off. About 10 minutes early today. I'm not going to dive into anything brand new in the last 10 minutes, but hopefully that was helpful with going through the FAQs. Michael had some great questions that I know are applicable to just more than Michael here on the call, because I get asked those ones quite often. And again, Michael, if you want some more in-depth stuff, the Pixel pricing tool and calculator, just to reiterate real quick before I hop off, let me screen share.
I have one last question before you leave.
Go ahead.
What do you see that's working within the residential solar industry for lead gen? Yeah.
Gotcha. Let me get right back to that. I just want to go over something that's right on top of my mind. I just jotted that down. I'll touch right back into that. But for anybody that wants to get better with the Pixel pricing and understanding what I was just talking about, on this sheet that I already dropped in the chat here today, and every one of you would have gotten the recap email after the one-on-one call you had with me when you enrolled, but number 7, and I'll go drop this link in the chat too, just to make sure everybody has it. This is the tutorial where I cover the Pixel pricing, how to assess if they're a good fit, what I recommend, and then within the description of this particular video is the link to our Pixel Forecast Calculator, which I highly recommend you guys use if you're ever assessing pricing or pitching the Pixel to anybody, really. I use it every time I ever assess whether I'm going to go sell a Pixel. And then once I know the estimated revenue that's left off on the table each year, that kind of dictates how I want to go into my pricing, and if I want to do straight retainer, performance plus retainer, straight performance, etc. So yeah, there's that tutorial, and again, within the description of that video is the link to the Pixel Forecast Calculator. Now, Michael, in terms of residential solar, what I've actually seen working the best, and this is going to be an outlier to almost everything that I say about the data in many instances. I probably wouldn't say this for e-commerce, for physical products, for precious metals, for a lot of other ones. But what I've seen working best for our solar companies that are targeting residential homeowners and ultimately the end user, the buyer of solar panels, solar electricity, whatever we're talking about here, is actually utilizing the data in the more old school way. So some of my clients specifically, and I was on a call with one yesterday, they do it really, really well. They do all direct mailers and small local door knocking canvassing campaigns for their solar and their roofing leads, and they are crushing it. I can think of, Michael, no less than 8 solar users off the top of my head right now, just since you asked me the question, that are doing it this way. Now, are some of them also running ads and emails and stuff? Yeah, I think the more avenues we have out there in any marketing, the better. Like if I could hit people in my ad when they're scrolling social media, in their inbox and email, in their SMS box, and in their social media, LinkedIn, if I could hit them in 4 different avenues, I want to with my messaging and my offer. What I see working best in the residential is actually some of the old school methodologies of utilizing the data. And I don't think enough people really embrace that are more in the local service-based business niche. I think outside of that, what I'm saying is kind of a moot point in a lot of other companies. But for local service-based business niches, home mailers and door knockers are crushing because so many people have gone away from that. Now it feels like a more personal approach and it's starting to stand out again. It's weird, right? We refer to that stuff as snail mail. It's dated. Everything's done through email. Yeah, it's gone so far back the other way that people are actually appreciative to get some actual mail in their mailbox, and they pay a lot more attention to it. Where I don't know how old everyone is here, and I might be dating myself, but 20 years ago, I don't think I ever really looked at my mail. If it wasn't, something important or whatever, a bill or insurance paperwork or whatever, freaking I crumpled it up. I never even opened it, right? Nowadays, people are going back to, oh shit, somebody actually sent me mail. Then it's a way to stand out in the marketplace, especially if you have good messaging. And as soon as they pick up whatever that mailer is, they read the first line and it hits their problem, right? Or the solution they're looking for or whatever. So that's what I've actually seen, Michael. And you asked in a niche that very rarely I would answer it that way, but that's the God honest truth of what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I go door to door almost every day for solar originations.
You hear what I'm saying?
And so if I pull a list in 2 or 3 different zip codes and looking for intent, would the data give me the home address of those people that have intent?
It certainly should. I can't say always because the data, what we have in our database is contingent to what people type in and give us. Not everybody has given us their full address. I want to say on the last platform test we did for address, I see it in about 60% of the profiles, Michael. So you're going to have to give or take that number. But let's say you download a list with 10,000. I would say approximately 6,000 will have the home address.
Awesome. Friggin' awesome, man.
But there are people that never type in that info or never give that to us. We can't go in and illegally obtain that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it. It's a lot better than just going from door to door to door. You could be more targeted.
No, 100%. That's what they do. The companies that I'm talking about, roofing and solar, the canvassing, they pull a list, they pull a specific zip code, and then they highlight their canvassing campaign, and they set up the day before, right? Hey, tomorrow we're going to hit Jones Street, Smith Street, and Main Street. Based off this list, that should give us 88 homes to knock on, right? And you go to those 88, and you're probably going to see higher results than just going blind to 400 homes. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Awesome. Alrighty, guys. I don't see any more questions in the chat. We're under 10 minutes here, so we will cut it off for today. I wish everybody that has a great week. I know some of us have a short week here, so hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving with their family, gets to spend it with some good family and friends, and of course, some good food. But I will see you guys here next Tuesday. Have a good day, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
Yep. You're welcome. Bye-bye.